that one email that I had sent you about that, the Big Sean audited the Good Music record label, and I heard him talk about that on Drink Champs podcast, and something that I had never thought about because I know of other audits, in regular business and in the world, but I never knew that that's a possibility in the music world. And essentially, is he auditing he's auditing them to get back any royalties that they didn't pay him for some of the music for his music that was played? Like he's auditing them to get back royalties that he's owed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So just to get back royalties or any unpaid monies or compensation that he would have been entitled to under that agreement with them. Now I don't know if that agreement's public record. I don't think it is. But that would be, he wants to make sure that they're holding up their end of the bargain. Mm-hmm. And the thing about audits in the music business is music accounting is it can get real slippery real quick. So that's, when it comes to those types of provisions, you not only need some kind of structure to say, hey, if I invoke this auditing provision, the first thing is you don't want to be responsible for their attorney fees on top of yours. And a lot of times they'll put that in that language and people won't think twice about it. But when push comes to shove and you're in that position, the last thing you want to be doing is paying the other side's attorney fees. And, there's a chance that clause might not get held up in a court of law, but that would require you to initiate litigation over the audit provision. And a lot of times, though, that's what happens when you try to have, when you've got somebody else basically acting as a escrow agent or holding money that's entitled to you, money can disappear. And expenses in the way that the music business has historically accounted for monies it can go a lot of different directions. Mm-hmm. And so that's like, people will, and you'll hear these stories about like these young acts that get signed and they get these advances and then their album does really well. Say, initial album sells 250,000, or this is using kind of the physical back in the day metrics, but sells say it goes gold, and they're like, I got a gold record. Where's my money? And like, oh well, you remember that tour bus that you went on tour with? Well, that was that was coming off. That was going to be recoupable. Oh, and those lunches that the deli trays. Oh yeah, that was recoupable too. And oh, those dinners, yeah, that counted against you as well. And they're like, what the hell? But that's something that needs to be taken into account because it's not, that's, the record labels have it, I don't want to say it rigged, but there's a system and a method to where it's worked for a long time to their best interests. And that's how a lot of artists end up in these positions to where it's like you have these fairly successful releases and no money. Mm-hmm. So
what does recoupable mean? You have to like pay that back?
So if basically in short, it's your earnings based on sales are then offset against those expenses that the label's already incurred on your behalf. And there can be a lot of expenses. And you have to keep in mind too, it's not just these, they talk about the tour bus, the deli lunches, but it goes into the marketing and the promotional expenses. And those can be massive. And it's really, really difficult if you're trying to reconcile those for like an audit purpose. Like how do you keep the label honest? Uh-huh. And it's not to say that the label hasn't incurred those expenses, but there's a lot of different, holes and pockets that those expenses can come from. And there's just a real, I think, disconnect between how those types of things are perceived and how artists are made aware of them at the, when they're initially being signed. And then when push comes to shove, the rubber meets the road. Like, dude, where's my money? Well, by the way, remember all these things that we did for you? Yeah, that's got to get paid for too.